I welcome all of you to the video lecture series on computational fluid dynamics, development, application, and analysis. This lecture is on topic 2, essentials for computational fluid dynamics. The title of this lecture 9 is initial and boundary conditions. This lecture on initial and boundary conditions corresponds to chapter 3 on essentials of fluid dynamics and heat transfer for CFD of the companion book to this lecture series. After the first topic on introduction, for the topic on essentials for computational fluid dynamics, whenever you want to study computational fluid dynamics, there are some essential concepts of fluid dynamics, heat transfer, and numerical methods which you need to study. This lecture is focused on the third subsection, initial and boundary condition, which is an essential concepts of fluid dynamics and heat transfer. In the previous lecture, I had introduced that the essential concepts of fluid dynamics and heat transfer, which you need to learn CFD, corresponds to the physical law, momentum and energy transport mechanism that was presented in previous 2 lectures. And in this lecture, I am presenting the initial and boundary conditions, which are again some very essential concepts for learning CFD. And finally, in the next lecture, I'll discuss the governing and engineering parameters. So initial conditions and boundary conditions are some of the essential concepts in fluid dynamics and heat transfer, which you should understand as well as appreciate if you want to learn CFD. So just to give you an example, if you consider a car which is moving at a constant speed and it is entering into a tunnel. Now, if you see the flow near the surface of the car, before it has entered into the tunnel and after it has entered into the tunnel, you will see that as soon as the car moving at a constant speed enters into the tunnel, the flow field near to the surface of the car is different. The reason is when it has not entered the tunnel, it is exposed to an environment which is an open environment. It's an external flow problem. Whereas when it enters into the tunnel, where the wall of the tunnel are relatively close to the car, then it's an internal fluid mechanics problem. So you can realize that in a fluid mechanics problem, the flow features as well as engineering parameters, such as in this car, the drag force which acts on the surface of the car, and the flow feature corresponds to the vortex formation on the rear surface of the car. So this flow features as well as engineering parameter varies as soon as the car enters inside the tunnel. So that way you can appreciate that the boundary condition, the external boundary condition which is exposed to, affects the flow feature as well as engineering parameter. The second point to note is when the car enters into the tunnel, the flow features as well as engineering parameter, while it is moving in the tunnel, it is dependent on the condition of flow before it has entered into the tunnel. If you consider a situation where the fluid inside the tunnel, the air inside the tunnel is stationary before it has entered, versus if there is, let us suppose in a tunnel, there is a fan and there is a flow which is being generated. So if the fan is switched off, let us say the fluid is stationary. Whereas inside the tunnel, if fan is switched on, so you have 2 different initial conditions. In the tunnel, when fan is switched off, let us say the fluid is stationary. That is one initial condition. The second initial condition could be if you switch on the fan in the tunnel, there is a flow which is being generated inside the tunnel. So under both the type of conditions of flow inside in a tunnel, when the car is entering, you will get 2 different results depending on the condition of flow, initial condition of the flow in the tunnel. So you can understand here again and appreciate that the flow features as well as engineering parameters depends on the initial condition as well as the boundary conditions. There are millions of fluid mechanics problems, but note that all of them obeys the conservation law. And in the previous topics on CFD applications, I have discussed what are the parameters on which the results vary. So initial and boundary conditions are one of the such parameter which strongly affects the solution. So as I discussed in the example problem for a car, all the problem obey conservation law. However, for a problem, let us take an example of flow across a car, which I discussed earlier. The resulting unsteady heat and fluid flow varies with a change in the initial condition and boundary condition. For the example of the car, the change in initial condition I discussed by taking an example whether in a tunnel the fluid is stationary, whereas there is a flow by the fan. So under both the two types of initial condition, you can get different results. So the result is depending on the initial condition of flow inside the tunnel. As far as boundary condition is concerned, in the example for flow across a car, I have discussed that when the car has not entered versus when it has entered inside the tunnel, the flow features changes from an internal flow to from an external flow to an internal flow. When it has not entered into the tunnel, mostly in CFD we use because whenever we do a computations, even though it's an external flow problem, but we do simulation in a certain fixed size of the domain. So in the external boundary, typically we use a free slip boundary condition. Whereas when it enters inside the tunnel, now we have to consider the wall of the tunnel in our computational domain, and there we use a no slip boundary condition. So this free slip versus no slip boundary condition affects the solution of for the present problem. So for a problem such as for flow across a car, you can understand and appreciate that the resulting unsteady flow varies with change in initial condition and boundary condition. Since the independent variables in the conservation laws, which are discussed in the topic on physical laws for the transport process, are spatial and temporal coordinates. So we have a spatial coordinate such as in Cartesian coordinate system x and y, and we have a temporal coordinate which is time. So these are the independent variables in our conservation law, mass, momentum, and energy conservation law. Flow condition at certain bounding temporal and spatial coordinates are essential to obtain a unique solution in fluid dynamics. So when I say flow conditions, it's basically at certain bounding. When I say bounding with respect to time, whenever we start a simulation, there is a time, initial time t is equal to 0. So what are the bounding? So the initial time and the final time of simulations, these are the bounding times. So we need flow conditions. Time is a one-way coordinate system. So we need only the time-wise condition of flow at an initial time, which is called as initial condition, which I'll present in the next slide. Whereas as far as the spatial coordinates is concerned, we need the flow condition at all the boundaries of the computational domain, which is called as boundary conditions. So we need flow conditions at certain bounding temporal and spatial coordinates to obtain a unique solution in fluid dynamics. Space is a one-way coordinate system. What happened now is dependent on the sequence of event in the past, but what is happening now is independent of the future events. So time travels with respect to time. The flow feature is dependent on the past but not on the future. So for time, the value of flow properties at one of the bounding time instant. As I said, there is an initial time instant and there is a final time instant. So the flow properties are dependent on the initial time instant, which is one of the bounding time instant, and that is called as initial condition, which is sufficient for an unsteady solution. In a computational fluid dynamics, typically, as I had mentioned in my previous lecture, we obtain the first picture from an initial condition, and from the data of the first picture, we obtain the second picture, and from the data of the second picture, we obtain the third picture, and so on. And this picture by picture creates the fluid dynamics for the in our CFD simulations. So note that in time, we need only one of the bounding time instant, which is the initial time instant. The flow property is the initial time instant, not the final time instant, that comes out from the solution. So we say that we are marching the solution in the time coordinate from initial time instance to the later time instant. Since the flow properties solution for flow properties are obtained in a bounded domain. Whenever we do simulation, note that we have to take a fixed region in space. So the flow condition all over the domain is needed for the determination of flow inside the domain. So, and the flow condition all over the boundary, that is what is called as boundary conditions. So note that here initial condition corresponds to one of the flow condition at one of the bounding time instant, that is t is equals to 0, and the boundary condition is the flow condition all over the boundary. So here I will demonstrate, I'll take some example problems. I will show you the initial and boundary condition. Let us first start with the simplest of the problem, like heat conduction. So let us suppose there is a rectangular plate of length L1 and height L2 in 2D Cartesian coordinate system, where these are the X and Y coordinates. And this, let us suppose we have taken this plate from a furnace, and this plate is at a temperature T0. So the initial condition when you are starting the simulation, at time t is equals to 0, at the temperature of the various point inside this plate is at a temperature T0. Whereas as soon as you are starting the simulation, let us suppose this plate is subjected to the boundary condition as shown here. The left wall is subjected to a constant wall temperature TW. The bottom wall is insulated. The right wall is subjected to constant heat flux boundary condition. And the top wall is subjected to a convective boundary conditions where you are given the ambient temperature and the convective heat transfer coefficient. So note that these are the various possible thermal boundary conditions where you have value of temperature on the left wall, where you know gradient of temperature, normal gradient of temperature, which is 0 for the insulated boundary condition. The normal gradient of temperature is equal to minus QW by K in this constant heat flux. And in this case, you basically apply, when you apply convective boundary condition at the top wall, you apply a condition that Q conduction at the top wall is equals to Q convection. So when you have this various types of thermal boundary condition, mathematically they are classified as Dirichlet boundary condition, Neumann boundary condition, and Robin or mixed type of boundary condition. So what is mathematically Dirichlet boundary condition means if at a boundary you are given the value of the flow property, such as in this problem, the value of the flow property for this problem is temperature, and the value of temperature is given as a boundary condition only for the left wall. So this left wall corresponds to a constant wall temperature, which is a Dirichlet boundary condition. A boundary condition is called as Neumann boundary condition if the gradient of the flow property is known. So for this case, the gradient of temperature is known on the bottom wall, which is dt by dy is equals to 0. Whereas for the right wall, dt by dx equals to minus qw by k. So this constant is 0 for bottom wall, and this constant is minus qw by k. Whereas this normal direction is y for the bottom wall and x for the right wall. So these are the gradient type of boundary conditions, which are called as Neumann boundary conditions. Now, the Robin or mixed type of boundary condition involves the value as well as gradient. So it's a linear combination of the value of temperature and the the gradient of temperature. So it is expressed as A T plus B dt by dn, where n is the normal, is equals to some constant. A, B, C are some constants. So when you apply at the top wall, Q conduction is equals to Q convection, which is basically minus K dt by dy is equals to H T minus T infinity. It finally turns out you get an equation like this, where A is equals to H, B is equals to K, C is equals to H into T infinity, and this normal direction is equal to Y. So these are the three standard type of boundary conditions which has been defined for fluid mechanics and heat transfer: Dirichlet, Neumann, and Robin or mixed type of boundary conditions. So this classification is not only applicable for this conduction problem, but is also applicable for the fluid dynamics problem. So after presenting the initial and boundary condition for conduction, let us go to the example problems in fluid mechanics. In fluid mechanics, we have two types of flow situation: external flow and internal flow. So here I will present the initial and boundary condition corresponding to these two problems. This is an external flow problem corresponding to flow across a cylinder, which is of circular shape. So in this case, you can see that the fluid is entering with a constant velocity from the left boundary. And let us suppose the fluid is initially stationary here, and suddenly from the left side there is a flow which is coming in. The initial condition is stationary fluid, u is equals to 0. This is for 2D problem. U is the velocity, horizontal velocity, v is the vertical velocity. Both are 0. And the fluid here is at an ambient temperature. The fluid is entering from the constant velocity, horizontal velocity, u is equals to e infinity, vertical velocity is 0, and the temperature is also at T infinity. So this is the initial condition, is stationary fluid and ambient temperature. This is the condition of the fluid at the left boundary. This is called as inlet boundary conditions. Now note that in an external flow problem, this problem is similar to flow across an aeroplane, where the size of the computational domain is infinite. In an external flow, you do not have a bounding bound. The object is not surrounded by a physical boundary. Like even if you consider flow across a car, one of the fixed boundary is the road, but there is no external boundary surrounding the car. So similarly, in case of aeroplane, you don't have an aeroplane is not moving in a closed region. So there is the boundary realistically is an infinite boundary. But whenever we do simulation, we have to take a fixed region. So we decide this outer boundary, and at this outer boundary, we have to use a physically realistic boundary condition. Note that the size of this external boundary plays an important role in getting accurate solution, and it should be large enough so that our results are physically realistic. So corresponding to the boundary conditions which we are using. So for an external flow problem, we have an inlet boundary condition, which is the realistic boundary condition. However, this outflow boundary conditions on the right wall, and then the top and bottom wall, we use a boundary condition which is called as free slip boundary conditions. Note that when we do computational simulation, we have to do a study which is called as domain size independent study. So just to give you an example, we do a computer simulation with, let us suppose, this height of the domain, let us suppose it is 10 times of the diameter of this cylinder. Then we increase the domains, let us say, to 10 to 15 and then 15 to 20. Let us suppose between the height of the domain 10 and 15, the results are changing, and between 15 to 20, the results are almost same. Then we say that the height of 15 is good enough for that simulation. So for an external flow problem, note that we numerically solve the problem, we are having this top and bottom boundary. So we have to do a additional study which is called as domain size independent study. And this free slip boundary condition is such that the normal velocity on this is the horizontal wall. The normal velocity is the vertical velocity is 0, and the normal gradient of tangential velocity is equal to 0. And this is like an insulated type of boundary conditions which we use on top and bottom wall. So this cylinder, if it is hot as shown here, then it becomes a heat transfer problem. If it is at ambient temperature, then it's only a fluid mechanics problem. When it is hot, then, and this heating can be a constant wall temperature or a uniform heat flux as shown here. So if this is heated, then it becomes a along with the fluid mechanics problem, it also becomes a heat transfer problem. And there are two standard types of thermal boundary condition: constant wall temperature, which is represented here by TW, and constant heat flux boundary condition, which is basically a Neumann type of boundary condition. This is a Dirichlet type of boundary condition. Constant heat flux is a Neumann type of boundary condition where the normal gradient of temperature is equal to minus QW by K. Note that this velocity boundary condition at the inlet, it's a Dirichlet type of boundary condition because the value of the flow properties are known. This at the outlet, your gradient is known. So this is a Neumann type of boundary condition. On the top and bottom wall, this vertical velocity is a Dirichlet type, and the other boundary conditions are Neumann type of boundary conditions. So these are the boundary conditions. Inlet, outlet is basically a fully developed flow boundary conditions. Note that the length of the domain we also decide by doing a domain length independent study, because this boundary condition is corresponding to a fully developed flow conditions. So this downstream length should be large enough, because whenever you consider flow across an object, after a certain downstream length only the flow becomes fully developed. So the downstream length that we are taking numerically should be large enough so that in the physically realistic condition, this downstream length is long enough so that realistically you are having an fully developed flow at this outlet boundary. After the external flow, let us take an internal flow problem, which could be flow in a pipe or flow in a plane channel. When we say plane channel, there's a top wall and bottom wall, which is like a flat plate, and whose length perpendicular to this plane is very large. So it becomes a two-dimensional internal flow problem. And here for Cartesian coordinate system, this is the horizontal x direction, this is the vertical direction. And where v use the velocity in the x direction and v is the velocity in the y direction. The fluid is entering with certain constant velocity. And let us suppose this is like a situation, let us suppose flow in a channel, the fluid is stationary and suddenly you are switching on the pump. So from here, the fluid is entering with a constant velocity. So initially the fluid is stationary inside this channel. So the velocities are zero and the temperature of the fluid is ambient temperature, T infinity. This is the initial condition which gives you the first picture of your CFD simulation. Now the boundary condition is at the inlet, the fluid is entering with a constant horizontal velocity, vertical velocity is zero and temperature is ambient. Whereas note that in this simulation, you have to take the length of the domain large enough so that this boundary condition, which is you're using at the outlet, is physically realistic. All of you know that for any internal flow problem, there is a fully development length. So the development length, so the length of the computation domain which you are taking should be larger than the development length. Then only this boundary condition will lead you to the realistic fluid dynamics. Top and bottom wall, as I mentioned, this is solid wall. So you have a no-slip boundary condition on the top and bottom wall. Note that in an external flow problem, top and bottom wall, you have a free slip boundary condition. Note that in an external flow, top and bottom boundary is not the physically realistic boundary. For our computational convenience or feasibility, we are imposing this top and bottom boundary. So these are like artificial boundaries because we have to do a simulation in a limited size of the domain. Whereas in internal flow, these are physically realistic boundary and you have a no-slip boundary condition. And again, if the top and bottom wall, these channel walls are exposed to certain thermal boundary condition, which could be constant wall temperature or a uniform heat flux, then it also becomes a heat transfer problem, as shown here. And if it's a constant wall temperature at top and bottom wall, this is the constant wall Dirichlet type of boundary condition. And for constant heat flux, this is the boundary conditions. No slip boundary condition is the velocity, the wall are stationary. So this is the boundary condition for no slip boundary. So with this, I had discussed the initial and boundary conditions starting from conduction to an external flow problem and finally going to the internal flow problem. For external as well as internal problem, note that we have the common boundary conditions are the inlet and outlet, whereas for the top and bottom wall, we have a no slip boundary condition in an internal flow, whereas in external flow, we have a free slip boundary conditions. In an external flow problem, the wall of the cylinder is subjected to constant wall or constant temperature or constant influx, whereas in an internal flow, the channel wall is subjected to constant wall temperature or constant heat flux. So with this, I had presented the boundary condition for conduction, external and internal. Finally, to draw the conclusion for this lecture, initial condition is a prescription of the flow property inside the domain at one time instant. whereas boundary condition is condition of flow properties all over the domain for the complete time duration. Note the word in initial condition, you are prescribing velocities, pressures, and temperature inside, whereas in boundary condition, you are prescribing all over the boundary of the domain. And in initial condition, you are prescribing for only one time instant, which is initial time instant t is equals to 0. Whereas in a boundary condition, you are prescribing these flow properties for complete time duration. So most of the time we have time-wise independent boundary conditions. Let us suppose if the certain wall is subjected to constant heat flux, which is not varying with respect to time. But if it's a heat flux is varying on a boundary, then it's a time-wise varying boundary conditions. For most of the problems, we have a time-wise invariant boundary conditions. These initial and boundary conditions are essentials for a fluid dynamics problem, since they act as a jury to the problem. They act like a judge to the problem, and they dictate the solution. With this, I had come to the end of this lecture on initial and boundary condition, which corresponds to the chapter 3 of this companion book, Introduction to Computational Fluid Dynamics. And this is a website where you can opt in the supplementary material corresponding to this. Thank you for your attention.